Good morning from the Standard Group Center. It is now 9 o'clock here in Nairobi. It's the 15th of November, 2016. Thanks for joining us as we take you around the world in the next 60 minutes. I'm Yvonne Okwara Matole. Our top story this morning comes from South Sudan. The United Nations envoy on genocide prevention, Adama Dieng, has warned that South Sudan is at risk of plunging into a, quote, outright ethnic war and genocide. Speaking to the media, wrapping up a 5-day visit to South Sudan this week, Dieng said the purpose of the visit was to better understand the landscape of ethnically fueled violence, including hate speech and incitement to violence, and to provide assistance where requested. His trip also included visiting Ye River State, which until recently had been spared the widespread violence of other areas. But Dieng said he heard reports of violence that included targeted killings, assault, maiming, mutilation, rape, and the barbarous use of machetes to hack families to death. Dieng said he will inform the international community of his assessment, call for action, and speak with members of the African Union and the Security Council, as well as the Intergovernmental Authority on Development, IGAD.
I am dismayed to report that what I have seen, what I have heard, has confirmed my concerns that there is a strong risk of violence escalating along ethnic lines with the potential for genocide. I heard reports of violence that included targeted killings, assault, maiming, mutilation, and rape by armed men, some in uniform and others not. There were cases of the barbarous use of machete, which remind me the 100 days in Rwanda. Conversation with all actors have confirmed that what began as a political conflict has transformed into what could become an outright ethnic war. With the stalling of the implementation of the peace agreement, the current humanitarian crisis, a stagnating economy, and the proliferation of arms, all of the ingredients are there for a dangerous escalation of violence.
All right, so let's speak to our regional affairs analyst, John Gashier, on this issue. John joins me on phone. Good morning, John. Genocide, I mean, you know, that is a strong term, and many in Africa fear that after Rwanda. But is the situation that bad in South Sudan?
Thank you, Yvonne. It is very bad in the sense that it is progressively getting out of hand in various places in South Sudan. And the tensions, the ethnic polarization, and political exclusion is on the increase. So it is a fairly bad situation. And as you say, perhaps unless there is a more immediate action by the international community, it's very likely that we could see an explosion and an upsurge of ethnic violence, and possibly, as Mr. Dieng is pointing out, we could see a genocide taking place in certain areas of South Sudan, to the northwest, to the central area, and perhaps also to the east.
All right, so let's talk then about international intervention, because you spoke about that, and Adama Dieng says, you know, he's going to inform the international community of the next steps to take. But surely, since, you know, the war broke out in 2013, you know, the peace agreement has stalled. Not much is being said about IGAD, AU, the EAC, and then, you know, Kenya pulling out its troops over, you know, that recent clash between Kenya and the UN over the, the army general who was in charge of UNMISS there. But what, in your view, has been the problem in terms of getting the two people on the negotiating table to get this peace process moving along?
Well, Yvonne, it's the usual, in my view, the usual complications within international diplomacy. Let's look at it this way. The UN Security Council has as yet to give very, shall I say, specific and clear mandate to the UN peacekeeping force in South Sudan in terms of mandate, in terms of resources, and in terms of plan. And then we have the long-running issue of the government in Juba and also the opposition seeking to renege on the agreement and also seeking to pursue what I would call unilateral actions that are not bound by the peace agreement. So from where I stand, I think the international community and indeed the African Union, IGAD, and the countries in the region, they need to be more engaged, more proactive, and possibly make it difficult and painful for those that are breaking the peace agreement.
All right, but let's be honest. Could it be that they're looking about this the wrong way and making it simply about Riek and Machar? Because we understand that there are rival factions, other smaller rival factions controlling various different territories within South Sudan. So are we making the mistake of making this about Riek Machar and Salva Kiir alone when there's other little factions that are coming up?
It could appear so, but the key principles is President Salva Kiir and his then Vice President Riek Machar. But what has happened is that different factions, groups, both within and without the warring parties, are now pulling out and taking advantage. And what we are having now is the proliferation of small groups that are either aligned to or seeking to expand the space. And for me, we might be having a similar situation as we had in DRC, Eastern DRC, and also possibly in Somalia, in that then you'll be having different groups based on ethnic affiliation, seeking to get the best political mileage, including military.
My final question to you, John, this morning is, do you think now this assessment by the UN envoy on genocide prevention saying that it is ethnically fueled and it could lead to genocide, do you think saying that will now possibly get the international community going? Because that was a very dark part of our history and nobody wants to hear the word genocide. Do you think this will now spur some movement, some response?
Everybody is praying and hoping so, and specifically the people of South Sudan. Remember, the center is not holding. The periphery is not holding. It appears the economy is on the collapse. So the animosity, ethnic profiling, and the proliferation of small groups does not augur well for South Sudan. And we are hoping that with this report, then the international community will be able to take more affirmative action and more direct action and hold the parties to account. Hopefully, it will not get out of hand. And remember, the mandate of the peacekeeping mission is due for renewal. And one of the key things that was expected was the creation of a peace enforcement force that would be able to hold the different factions that breach the peace to account.
Thank you very much for that, John Gashie. Indeed, that is the hope of, like you say, not just South Sudanese, but the continent as a whole. John Gashie joining us on phone. He's our regional affairs analyst, speaking to us about that UN report saying South Sudan is sliding into possible genocide. We'll continue to keep our eye on that for you. Now, Congolese Prime Minister Augustin Matata Ponyo has resigned as part of the National Dialogue Framework Agreement, which stipulates that an opposition leader takes the position of Prime Minister. The agreement was signed in October by the ruling party and some opposition parties endorsing the 2018 presidential election date proposed by the Electoral Commission and for President Joseph Kabila to remain in office till then. Matata, who has been the Prime Minister since 2012, said his government has done, quote, valuable work with a positive picture of the economy. The president is expected to address the nation today in front of the Congress. The political agreement signed under the watch of the African Union appointed facilitator Edem Kojo was endorsed by the United Nations Secretary-General Ban Ki-moon, who called for a peaceful transition for peaceful elections. However, the agreement was opposed by the major opposition coalition, which described it as non-inclusive and promised to protest till Kabila steps down when his mandate originally ends in December. I want to go down to South Africa. Leader of the Economic Freedom Fighters EFF party, Julius Malema, has urged his supporters to occupy white-owned land moments after a court postponed his trial over inciting his supporters to invade land. The ultra-left South African politician, who wants mines and land nationalized and whites' economic power curbed, has accused the ruling ANC party of failing to address the inequality of land ownership between blacks and whites since the end of apartheid in 1994. Malema was granted an adjournment to lodge an application with the Constitutional Court to have apartheid law declared unconstitutional.
When we live here, you see any beautiful piece of land, you like it, occupy it. It belongs to you. It is your land. It is the land of our forefathers. It is a land that was taken from us by white people by force through genocide. They killed our people. We are not talking violence. We are not promoting violence. But I cannot guarantee the future. I'm not a prophet. I'm talking now. We are not carrying any weapons. I will never kill white people. Why should I kill them? I will never revenge for what they did. I'm asking politely for the land to be returned.
Fiery words from Julius Malema there. So that's our Twitter poll question this morning. We're asking you, do you think South Africa opposition leader Julius Malema's call for forceful land occupation resonates with the rest of Africa? Do you think his call for forceful land occupation resonates with the rest of Africa? Send us your thoughts on Twitter at KTN News, at Yvonne Okwara. Remember to use the hashtag Worldview. I'll be looking out for your thoughts on that.